Good morning. I'll spell my last name. I know that's usually the first question. Kitzerow, K-I-T-Z-E-R-O-W. First name is Frank, and I'm the police chief here in the town of Jupiter. Also want to take an opportunity to introduce Major Amy Walling, commander of our Operations Support Bureau, Sergeant Mike Barbera, our criminal investigations supervisor, and Sergeant Shane Lunsford, our special operations supervisor, and the men and women of the Jupiter Police Department Detective and Crime Scene Divisions. The Jupiter Police Department detectives have made an arrest in connection with the homicide that occurred on April 18, 2015. On April 24th, 3 suspects were arrested. 19-year-old David Harris, 18-year-old Jesse Harris, and 19-year-old Austin L. Taggart. Each suspect is charged with 3 counts of attempted armed robbery and 1 count of first-degree murder. I would like to offer my condolences to the family of Onesimo Marcelino Lopez Ramos. Obviously, no family should lose a loved one in this way and at such a young age. Our thoughts and prayers are with you during this difficult time. The senseless murder of Mr. Lopez Ramos began as a premeditated robbery. Suspects in this case specifically targeted members of our Hispanic community. They sought them out, and this young man was ultimately killed as this crime unfolded. This was a challenging case, but a case that was solved due to the investigative efforts of detectives and officers who worked tirelessly to ensure those responsible would be held accountable. I want to personally thank them for their unwavering commitment and hard work. I would like to thank the members of the State Attorney's Office who have assisted us with this case. And obviously you can see how many people were involved in this investigation. Lastly, I would personally like to thank the members of our community who came forward to provide critical information about this crime. Over the years, we here in Jupiter have fostered a great relationship with our Hispanic community. Those lasting relationships and the willingness of people to come forward played a significant role in this case. Those individuals who choose to commit crimes in our town should know this. This community and the police department work together, and we will use every available resource to hold criminals accountable for their actions. Thank you, and with that I'll take any questions you may have.
Yeah, are you considering this as a hate crime? Is that another charge?
As I said earlier, the suspects in this case specifically targeted members of our Hispanic community, and this began as a premeditated robbery.
Are you using the words hate crime?
We are looking for the hate crime enhancements during the penalty phase
Please
of
raise your
this.
hand so they can call in, please.
Chief, did you say how you determined that they were targeting the Hispanic community, and did you figure out why they were targeting the...
We did, and you're going to get copies of the probable cause affidavit when this is over. But again, that came through the investigative work done by the detectives here, through statements and evidence and corroborating witnesses and those type of things. All of that will come out as we proceed with the judicial process.
Had they targeted the Hispanic community in the past?
That I don't know.
Did they say why? They wanted
Well,
to target?
it was a premeditated robbery. They were here to commit premeditated robbery.
Well, why the Hispanic community? Why not someone else?
That I can't answer. I just know that that's who they targeted.
Do you
Good.
know which...
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Do you know if there were any other Hispanic people that were targeted that they weren't maybe successful in robbing and didn't kill?
I know there were other people present at the scene, and again, a lot of that will come out during the judicial process itself as the case moves forward with the State Attorney's Office.
Chief, have you found the murder weapon?
We have all the evidence. We believe we have the murder weapon.
What was it?
I can't say at this point in time.
Can you
That
tell
will
me
come
how-
out.
Can you tell me how badly the victim was beaten?
He was severely beaten, obviously enough to have his cause of death be by blunt force trauma, and you'll see a lot of that come out as the process moves forward.
Chief, what do you have to determine to make this a hate crime?
Well, the basic ingredients of that are that you have a premeditated crime, and you're targeting your victim based on ethnicity in this case, and or other factors down the road. But in this particular case, they specifically targeted this Hispanic community.
What's left for you to kind of prove to make it a hate crime?
Oh, there's a lot of work left for these detectives. Obviously, you know, the reason we're out here today is for several, to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of these folks. I mean, we went from a crime scene on an early Saturday morning a little over a week ago with very few leads and information to closing this case and making 3 arrests in a matter of just days. And so, you know, you can imagine the amount of work and the volume there. You know, it's the first time I think they've gotten some sleep in like a week. So, so that was important. But the reason I bring all that up is because now there's still a great deal of work to go as we go forward. Because it's not just enough to make the arrest. We want the successful prosecution and outcome in this case.
Can we talk to one of the investigators also about the process of how much work they put into this?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'll let you talk to the commander of the criminal investigations, Major Amy Walling. Amy?
Could you spell your first and last name for us, please?
Amy, A-M-Y, Walling, W-A-L-L-I-N-G.
And how should we title you?
I'm sorry?
How should we title you?
Major.
Talk to us about the investigation.
It's been a long week. They worked tirelessly around the clock on this. The call came out, as most of you know, last Saturday morning at about 2 o'clock, and it has been non-stop ever since. So until these 3 subjects were taken to jail on Saturday, it was a lot of hours put in by these detectives, crime scene, and civilian staff as well.
Now, they were free, they were roaming around, because what we read from the police was they were actually stopped within city limits after you got enough information. Can you tell us what the process was in between the initial attack and then being arrested, what that's like for you guys? I mean, is it rush, we got to get all our ducks in a row to make sure we have enough? Can you kind of go through what that's like?
I won't say rush. I will say that it is very deliberate. It's very meticulous. They are very strategic in how they conduct an investigation. This is what they do. They're good at it. So as they go step by step meticulously through investigating this crime, and as the events unfolded for us, we just went step to step.
Were you concerned, though, that there was a certain amount of time as to they may take off and it might be harder to find these individuals?
I don't know that was specifically ever crossed our mind. It was just a matter of let the events unfold as they did.
What was the biggest part of this case? What helped you the most in getting the information you needed? Was it people in the neighborhood? Was it just crime scene technicians? What was it?
It was a combination of everything coming together. It was the help of the community. They were great working with us. It was the experience and knowledge of the investigators that were doing the work. It was, looking at the evidence, analyzing the evidence, and just putting it all together.
I don't know if this is for you, the chief, but you mentioned it. Can you talk a little more about the importance of your connection with the Hispanic community? Because I don't know if these suspects just assumed because they were targeting Hispanics, they wouldn't cooperate, or they wouldn't come forward, or they'd be too nervous to come forward.
Thank you. I think it's a very good question. We value our relationship with all of our community here in Jupiter, but especially with the Hispanic community, because sometimes it can be difficult to bridge that cultural gap. I mean, for example, just a few weeks ago, we were hosting a soccer tournament in which many members of the Hispanic community were there. And those little things that we do and interact with each other so much that, when you have a case like this that can be so traumatizing to a neighborhood, you're not starting to build relationships then. Those relationships are in place. Those relationships are already there, and you're knocking down a lot of the barriers. So in answer to your question, the relationship with the Hispanic community and all communities in Jupiter are very important to us, and we work very hard to maintain those relationships.
Yeah, I know that I don't know if these particular individuals have been targeting this group before, but had people in that particular neighborhood and area, had they said that they have been victims of similar style robberies? Is that kind of a concern to them?
Well, obviously there have been some other crimes in the neighborhood there. Now, whether or not these folks are responsible for them, I can't say. But just like any neighborhood, we respond. We take their concerns very seriously, and obviously we'll, as we did here, provide whatever resources we have available to keep our neighborhood safe. Look, and it's not just actually being safe. We want you to feel safe, and that's why we work so hard with these relationships.
Chief, do you know what they were trying to rob from this gentleman?
I don't know what they were trying to rob, and I'm assuming that will come out as we move ahead.
I think a lot of the answers to the questions that you're looking for are going to come out in the probable cause affidavits released later today, and we'll be working on that here right after the conclusion of the press conference.
Is there any sense of frustration, or I don't know what the word would be, that it's 2015, or potentially talking about a hate crime in Jupiter?
Well, we never want to be talking about hate crimes anywhere, especially in our town. But I think the big takeaway here is that this community and the police department work together to solve this case, a very complicated case, in just a matter of days. I think that speaks volumes to the relationship that we have with our community.
One last question.
Have you had a hate crime in Jupiter? I mean, can you give a little context? Has there ever been a hate crime in Jupiter? Or?
I can give you the statistics on that.
Okay. I mean, even if it's just, do you remember there?
Nothing of this magnitude.
Okay.
I can tell you that.
No, but what made it complicated? You mentioned it's complicated.
Well, what makes it so complicated is you arrive at a scene, as I said, early in the morning, in the middle of the night. There's people everywhere. You have somebody deceased there at the scene, and you have to start piecing things together. You have language barriers, you have volumes of people to interview, you have evidence to evaluate, you've got to process a crime scene, then you have to prepare for charges and prosecution, and it really is a significant undertaking.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.